Racing tells you why you should read this book.
It's a book about Kansas by a Kansas author. It's got an animal on the cover of it. Read ICT Category 6. It's got Mennonites. It's got homespun love. It's about Kansas and the Depression. It's a story about love and family. This is one of the best reads I've read in a long time. You're going to dig it.
Everyone, welcome to another episode of ICTBC. I'm Librarian Sarah.
I'm Librarian Racine. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great book today.
Yes.
Never Enough Flamingos by Janelle Diller. Hopefully, too, I'm going to keep watching. She may be joining us via China.
Oh, she's in China.
She's in China right now. I know.
That's cool.
Good evening.
Well, we will hope to have her join with us later, but I do believe that she said that she would answer any questions, right?
Right.
If we have the discussion going in the chat, and she can come and join later, and even if she can't join us live, she'll be by to answer some of your questions. So put those in the chat.
Yeah, put those in there. But, okay, the book, Never Enough Flamingos. This is a story about a Mennonite girl, and it starts shortly before the Great Depression.
I thought it was at the end of the Great Depression.
No, it starts.
Okay.
Shortly before.
I won't argue with you.
We're trying to sit closer to show that we like each other, but, you know.
We like each other.
Okay.
Don't let the people at home think that we don't.
So, it's before the Depression starts. It's like right there. And then it skips ahead into they're in the Depression, they're trying to get by, they're a Mennonite family in Kansas. You always see the books, Amish, Amish. I call them the bonnet rippers. No, I'm kidding.
Like the ones that like run off and run off to Wichita?
Yeah.
Marry a taxi driver?
That happens in here too, but
that's how I was making the joke.
Okay.
So anyway, yes, it's a Dust Bowl, right, in Kansas. They're trying to grow wheat on their family farm, and it's just a really difficult time in our farming history.
The only way that they're getting by is they're selling milk from cows, their cows, and then when the cows get into loco weed.
Yeah, I don't know what loco weed is, but apparently it makes you want to die.
Yeah.
Or it does kill you. It kills you.
It kills the cows.
It killed the cows.
So
they're stuck, right?
Right.
And in walks Simon Yoder, the benefactor of their small Mennonite community there in Kiowa, Kansas. Kiowa County, Kansas?
Yeah.
And he helps them out.
Well, he helps them out by loaning them some money. Ben, the cat's brother, goes to work for him. And so it's interesting. Ben's like maybe 15, 16.
I got the impression he was a few years older.
Kat, his sister, who's the narrator of this book, she's about 12. It's really interesting. I like this book because Kansas is a character.
Very much so.
Their faith is a character.
I could see that, yeah.
Because they're in a small town, and then they're even more cloistered by being a part of the Mennonite religion. What was it? There's one example in the book. One guy has grown up, been a Mennonite all of his life. Another guy marries into the faith.
Yeah.
And what was it? He mows the church lawns. He takes care of everybody. He's working constantly. He's part Indian, Native American. That might be another reason why he's an outsider.
He goes to church every Sunday.
He goes to church every Sunday.
The Mennonite born into the church doesn't. And the born Mennonite, will still be Mennonite at the end of his life.
Where the other guy's been working all of his life and to prove himself,
Mm-hmm.
and they may still not really accept him.
Like, he might get buried in the church cemetery.
You know what? That's just telling on how small their world is.
Yeah.
And so, Kat goes to work for the Yoders. Oh my gosh. Ethel Yoder, the mom.
The matriarch of the Yoder clan.
Yeah. What was it? The things that Kat learns is that when you're rich and paying for something, you don't have to say thank you.
Yeah, or please.
Or please.
Except to tell her to pull the curtains down so that, the sun doesn't get in.
Well,
so Kat has a really interesting way of describing things. I really liked having her be the narrator. And she says right off the beginning that she is a storyteller, right? And so while some people might be very quick to just cut and dry, she's going to tell you exactly where all of these different people come from. She's a true Mennonite storyteller. And so I really enjoyed the way that she saw the world through her little innocent 12-year-old eyes. But I also think it's really interesting because we find out very quickly that Simon Yoder is
not what he seems.
Anything but.
Well, and I think what you're touching on is that she's exposed to lots of people, and I think Janelle does this great. What was it? She has turns of phrase in this book that I love.
Yes.
Like, Uncle Bob could never start a story without a genealogy. My mom was...
Hi, Stephanie.
Oh, hi, Stephanie.
Thanks for joining us
Thanks for joining us.
We're glad to see you.
What was it? Her mom, this is where the title comes from. What was it? In a field of turkeys, her mom was a flamingo. I mean, how beautiful is that?
I liked her mom a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that her name was Rose. Like, she had that scene where she was crying over the hail in the rose garden, and I didn't realize her name was Rose. It was almost like a really fitting name for her.
Yeah, well, and I think that it's really cool that, Mom has a garden. She has this beautiful garden. That's another thing. When Kat goes to work for the Yoders, they don't have a beautiful garden. Ethel doesn't cook. She's talking to her daughter in the kitchen about her daughter getting her hair done by Bob. Did you get that?
I don't think I did. Oh, yes. Yeah. Instead of a Bob, she was talking about,
getting her hair done by Bob.
Yes.
So, anyways, one of the other turns of phrase was it Grandma, whose head was an attic full of treasures, but the pull string didn't work.
Yeah. I loved Grandma.
I loved Grandma.
Her and Agnes.
Yeah, but Agnes was Grandma's. Is it make-believe friend or invisible friend? Yeah, I think you would say
invisible friend, right?
Yeah.
Grandma was senile, and
Agnes was there for her.
But she made her set the table for Agnes.
Yeah.
And always made sure Agnes was going about her business, and Agnes doesn't like this person very much, and so I think Agnes became a way for her to really communicate almost, because Agnes communicated for her in ways that she could not.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Grandma says is Simon Yoder is a man who steals the souls of young girls.
In a moment of very stark clarity.
Yeah. What happens is that Simon, he hugs Kat, he kisses her.
Rubs on her back a little bit.
Yeah.
But not in that nice, friendly way. Like, in a really creepy way.
So, okay. I thought that this book was a cozy Me Too story.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Don't you think so?
I thought that it was going to not get into... It got a little heavier than I thought it was going to get. Just because of Kat's narrative style.
Yeah.
And how she has...
She's descriptive.
She's very descriptive, but she has really interesting ways of thinking. We've already discussed it. And So I thought that, oh no, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Me too.
Me too. Yes. I think that makes a lot of sense. There was a lot in there that I was not expecting, but
Well, and I think that
appreciated
this,
in a different level.
and
that's, I think, shows that the Me Too whole thing, not to get, into that too deeply, but touches every community across all time periods, right?
Right.
It's the Mennonites in the 30s, and there's a lot of description of how the men's roles were one way and the women's roles were another. And we couldn't talk to Kat about what was going on in Europe with the war, right? Ben couldn't take grandma fishing. That was women's work, and so how it was meant to protect her in a lot of ways, but opened her up to
being more vulnerable.
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
and she talks about how, she was taught not to steal a loaf of bread.
Mm-hmm.
She was taught not to lie. But none of our Sunday school lessons prepared me to stand up against wrong if it meant being disrespectful to an adult. Or at least if they covered that lesson, I'd been sick that Sunday.
She gives him that option. But yes, I mean, who is prepared to deal with that kind of stuff when you're 12? Hi, Suzanne. Glad
Hi,
you could join
Suzanne.
us. We also love book talking on a Wednesday afternoon.
Well, and this is our category 6.
Yep. Oh, good
Animal
point.
on the cover.
Greg was nice enough to put it up on the screen so you'd know exactly what we were using this for. Animal on the cover. And look, Janelle Diller's joining us from China.
Hi, Janelle.
We're so glad you could join us, and we will keep going on our discussion. This book, I also want to talk about how it mirrored what was going on in Europe, right? This tiny little town, and actually, I was a little surprised, and maybe I'm just ignorant, but that this little cloistered community in Kansas on their farms, worrying about their wheat in the middle of a drought,
Would be paying attention to what's...
And we're actually pretty high, knew what was going on. I mean, I guess she said that her dad listened to the radio while he was milking the cows, but...
I think that they had such... What was it? They were talking about how they lived in Germany, and then they moved to Russia. They lived in Russia for 100 years, but they're still speaking German. Mm-hmm. And how... What was it? I loved it. She described Hitler as the small rooster, the
preening rooster.
And it's like, you can just imagine a banty rooster, and it's like, that would be the analogy that they would probably have for Hitler.
Yeah.
But, they love the German culture, and that's,
No, that's fine. We're just glad that you're joining us. That's dedicated.
Right on. Ugh.
If you've got anything to chip in about what was going through your mind when you were writing this book, as we're discussing, we would love that insight. Because I do think we were talking right before about how the Ben and his father would get into those arguments about what was going on
in the world events,
Mennonites who are so pacifist that they get out of the draft that way, right?
Right.
And so having them argue and bringing this book to its culmination, right? Didn't you kind of feel it as those arguments were getting more heated and things were going on in Europe and Poland was falling and Hitler had invaded
But I
France.
think it was Ben and his father, Ben and Kat's father.
Yeah.
It was their way of working out some of their issues.
Oh, yeah.
Because Dad was losing his son to Simon Yoder, who has more than one suit, doesn't have to wear the same suit to Sunday meeting.
He buys a coupe and a sedan.
He takes them to a steak dinner. I mean, just phenomenal wealth for those days. Mm-hmm. And so losing your child to somebody who you can't compete with, it was crazy.
But how insightful... That's awesome.
We're reading. Oh, sorry. Suzanne Tobias says, Yay for Category 6. Extra points to you for a Kansas-themed pick and having the author tune in. Super cool. Going to share a link for others on lunch break. Thank you, Suzanne.
And we will hope that this because we only get 20 minutes really to talk about this book, but we hope that as people watch it and join us, that we can continue it in the comments. So even if you're not joining us live, please do continue to comment along with us, and Racine and I will also join you in the comments. So what was I? Oh, I was going to just say really quickly that yes, I think that Ben and his father were getting out some of that aggression, that pent up, I'm losing my son, but at the same time, I'm fighting with Simon, right? And that it was very insightful of Kat to point out that something about I had it before. Lost my train of thought, but it was something about that it was something for them to work out because there's a boy and his father, but and that's what it was, that he was fighting with Simon about he was trying to bring Ben back from the cusp, right? Bring him back from being Simon's little creation basically,
protege,
mini me.
Well, and Simon gets Ben involved in basketball,
right?
And that was kind of interesting because...
But he also was a creepy molester guy who, and so
was
we don't
predator.
Believe Kat. We're just worried about Ben. And I thought that was really insightful for her as a young girl in the 30s. Must have been the 40s by then. But, for her to recognize that. And, I mean, she didn't really do anything about it. She just kind of accepted it because that's how things were. But... I kind of liked that she still pointed all that stuff out. I don't know. I thought it gave her... She was a very well-rounded character. I liked her a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for a 12-year-old, it's funny because it's like you see strong characters, but maybe they seem physically strong, but they're not, or... You know how strength comes in so many different forms? Yeah. And... God bless Kat's heart. She doesn't lose it and freak out. And it would be okay for her to lose it and freak out over what she's been through.
But do you think that's also part of her religion?
Meet those people, huh?
Do you think that's also part of her religion?
Maybe.
They're very stoic, right? I mean, her mother cannot cry for her daughter who is being preyed upon. She cries for her roses that get demolished by hail.
Yeah.
Even though her mom's going to stand up for her, she's not going to let her go back to Simon Yoder's house. And when we worry about Suzanne, her mom says yes.
Oh my gosh.
Let Suzanne come stay with us.
Okay, when Grandma is grieving Grandpa.
Oh, breaks my heart.
Grandpa dies. Sorry, spoiler alert. Janelle Diller says yes, stoic. Mm-hmm. It's like Grandma... they're going to take Grandpa to the hospital or to the doctor, even though he's gone. And what was it? They were panicking only because, that's what you do is you panic in a situation like that. But she goes, "Can I go with you?" Mm-hmm. Can I go with him? And she goes, you don't know if she means to Jordan.
Oh, yeah. Or to Jesus.
Yeah, and this is a woman who's moved through 2 major, moves in her life. Can she do a third?
But she stayed with them for a few years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I liked Grandma.
I loved Grandma. She was a great character.
Janelle, do you mean it's slow on your end because of the internet speed or because you're referring to your own book? I didn't think it was slow at all. That's why I was making a joke.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was a very quick read. It grabbed my attention at the beginning, and it kind of kept
sucks you in, doesn't it?
For sure.
Did I oversell it?
What, you mean on our promo?
Yeah.
No.
This is really
Although
good.
you said homespun love, apparently, because I saw it on the screen, and I don't know whose homespun love you were referring to.
Mom, Dad, Ben.
Like family love.
Sorry, yeah.
Because you only couple that I thought was, oh, she's slow because she's not totally awake. Totally forgivable. And I think Janelle would probably appreciate it if you oversold it more.
Well,
but
I just...
Really, you don't need to. The book stands on its own.
Yeah.
It really is a wonderful read, and it's the first in a trilogy.
Right. The next is Never Enough Sisters,
Okay.
which takes up the story of Kat's friend Suzanne.
Who we saw at the very end getting, you can't oversell a book, Suzanne. Well, I think you can, but
Well,
I mean, you know that we're going to oversell things that we get excited about. So, and Racine and I don't know if you guys know this. Racine and I get excited about quite a few things.
I am stoic.
Are you? I don't think so.
Janelle has the third book. She's writing about that. We've got Never Enough Sisters, which is the next
sorry.
book. The third book is Never Enough Lilacs. So, and it was funny, I was talking to Janelle, I got to meet her
Okay.
when she was here in town, and she was like, yeah, I'm done with that series, but bless her heart, she really writes a well-rounded book about a period and an era, and I could see, if an author's really writing well and not like phoning it in, that would be tough to give every ounce to a book. So,
well, and it's a very heavy, it is a heavy topic. I don't think that you can write about molestation without it affecting you in some way. I mean, it's awful. But I really do not think that this book would have worked if it wasn't told from Kat's perspective. Because I think that she starts the book out with such innocence, and we know it's coming. It's on the back of the book that Simon's a creeper, but we know it's coming, and she starts the book out with such innocence and exuberance, and we see it slowly crack and crumble, and then she learns to stand up for herself, right? She's not going to let it happen to her best friend too, and then she sees what happens to the other girls, and it's just, I think, and after Selma, is that her name? The little girl from Indiana? Just awful. But not that the book was awful, because you guys should read it. If you haven't already. And then join us in the comments. And if you have read it, join us in the comments.
yeah.
Any final thoughts? I think we went over our time.
I think we went over our time, but I would say we are challenging you. You be the librarian. You tell us which books you think are read-alikes to this one. And
Read-alikes being
similar in tone or similar in style. Oh, Suzanne says, speaking of overselling, ever since Sarah mentioned we are all completely beside ourselves, another number 6 possibility.
Yes.
I've heard from multiple other people that they love the book too. It's definitely on my list.
Because it's super good.
Yeah. Well, we have another book that you might like. We're giving away a book.
Oh, here. May I have that? Hello. It's called Crux.
It's a memoir, and it's about a girl whose family is from Mexico. And you can't see it because it's kind of dark here, but there are faint animals all over this book. In her family, they have brujas and con men, and it just sounds like a really fascinating book. So, what should we say?
First one with a good read-alike.
First one with a good read-alike.
For Never Enough Flamingos.
Never Enough Flamingos.
Reading this book, what other books did you think of? If you wanted to recommend something to somebody who really liked this book, what would you recommend? That's what we're looking for.
Or, let's just say...
Or books about Kansas.
Family. Farmer. Depression.
Yeah. Dust Bowl. So
Those
first one
might
with
be
the
good
read-alike.
ones.
We'll give you this really great sounding book by Jean Guerrero.
I think it's Guerrero. Anyways.
I added an extra syllable. I do that. So let's talk about the book we're going to read next month. I'm actually really excited
The
about
Power.
this one. Yes. So it's The Power by Naomi Alderman. And it's all about, it's going to be our choice for topic in the news because it is about when girls reach a certain age, they develop a power where they can basically shock people. Isn't that right? I feel like I read the description a long time ago.
After a while, they realize that if they shock other women who are older, then they get the power again, or they get that power. So all of the women have the ability to shock, quite literally. And you know what? It's funny, because it's almost like this one was a topic in the news.
I was reading that and I thought the same thing.
Sorry, Suzanne, we got a trifecta going.
We're going all over the place. But you know what? Anyway, we're really excited, so we hope you'll join us for that discussion as well. I've seen The Power on numerous bestseller lists and people's favorite books of 2017. So Suzanne looks like she's also excited about The Power. So great. We hope that you'll join us for that one too. And let's keep the comments going on Never Enough Flamingos. Janelle, thank you so much for joining us from China at 2 a.m. It is very windy here, so while reading your book, all I could think about was how it was very appropriate weather for
It was Kansas
this month, or this book's month selection. So anyway, everyone have a great afternoon. Try not to get blown away by the wind, and we'll see you next time.